Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom or Tom. How's it going?
Tony, it is a listener question show that we're doing, and we're tackling one listener question, but it was one that I was not emotionally prepared for, which was looking ahead to next year's transfer portal. And it's like, I'm not sure I'm ready to do this again, even 12 months from now. But we're going to be looking ahead. We're going to be talking about what we might be doing 12 months from now. So if you're emotionally ready, we can start that process of exploration together.
Well, and the question comes from at Janik183. Do you think next year's portal will be this nuts, or will some rules be in place to prevent them by the time the next portal season rolls around? The second part is much easier to answer. No, there will be no rules in place. You're once again going to have just one portal window, which automatically brings some nuts and craziness to it. And so, Tom, I guess if this year is the high watermark of nuts of the portal, if we can just assume that, then next year, is it going to be as crazy? I think there is the potential for it to be as crazy because you had this year just a bunch of people going, I'm just going to get in because if I don't, I'm told I need to get in. All of those players that are in that made bad decisions, do you think they're just going to stick it out?
Well, yeah, all those players that are in that made bad decisions, how many of them are going to be left without a chair when the music stops? That's kind of one of the questions. I think before we even get into this, I think we kind of need to back up and have the bigger picture conversation, which is there's no guarantee that the portal timing or execution is going to be the same next year as it was this year. The leagues can certainly get back together and say, you know what didn't work out great? Having the portal open in the middle of the college football playoff. Turns out that wasn't a great idea, especially with that being the only time the portal opened. And my understanding was that the Big Ten was pushing for something later on in the year, whether that was a post-spring portal or at least a post-season portal. I would guess you might see the SEC and some other folks come back and go, well, I don't want to say we were wrong, but what if we did things a little differently next year? And just if it's a February portal or a March portal or an April portal, does that maybe make it a little less crazy? Maybe just because then you don't also have the rest of the sport the middle of the season, plus the coaching hiring cycle and all of that stuff going on at the same time. So that in and of itself might make it a little less crazy. And then the question is, okay, what is the lesson that is learned? Well, okay, even before we get to the lesson that's learned, what is there any kind of change in terms of the governance of the portal? Are there more restrictions put into place on the agents? Are there more restrictions put into place on, do some of the contracts get a little bit better written? Because I think if you look at the Damon Williams situation at Washington, he was going to, he had signed a contract with Washington and then he was going to jump ship to LSU 2 days later. And Washington said, oh, no, you don't. You, sir, have a contract. And it is a pretty well-written contract because it's pretty much Big Ten boilerplate language. And you notice Damon Williams is still with the Washington Huskies and he is not with LSU. So there may be some, if more people can get sort of boilerplate language and maybe some multi-year deals, that could slow things down as well. Tony, I'm providing lots of reasons for optimism, which I'm not sure are well-founded based on, the track record of the people running the sport. But, hey, it's possible that for those reasons alone, this could be a little less crazy.
Well, before we start talking about the Darian Mensah example, Tom, not 10 minutes ago, I'm watching Alabama basketball coach Nate Oates talking about playing Charles Bediako, who has been out of college basketball for 3 years now, has been in the G League for 3 years or whatever, and saying, what am I supposed to do? Not let him play? Like the judge says he's eligible to play. What am I supposed to do? Not play him? Are you playing all of your walk-ons? They're eligible to play. Like the idea that things are going to get more, logical, I'll believe that when I see it. Granted, moving the transfer portal makes the most sense, and I think that's eventually going to happen. Will it happen this year? I don't know, but to say that, gosh, our hands are tied, we're allowed to do stuff. What are we supposed to do? Not do it? Like to think that the coaches are going to be the moral compass in all of this, like that's not going to happen. And if you are the moral compass, the lunatic fringe wants you the hell out of town. So this is a different show than what we started talking about. So is the portal
Nate
going to be
Oates, the moral compass of these United States of America. Official campaign motto: the heat is in the hat.
yes? And where's Dave Bliss when you need him? Frankly,
Mm-hmm.
so in terms of will this be as crazy? Like I think the money is going to always make it very, very interesting when you have everybody as a free agent every single year. And we talk about these multi-year deals, and you talked about DeMond Williams, and that locked him in after some legal haggling and maneuvering. They kept him. That's not the case for Darian Mensah, who is going to be going to maybe Miami. We don't know. He's just trying to get into the portal right now. And so, that whole thing, he had a 2-year deal that got torn up. And all of these deals can be torn up. It's just a matter of who's going to be paying for the tearing, basically. So I do think multi-year deals sure helps Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith, right? Would it be the answer for somebody like Quincy Porter? Not at the rate he was asking. How much do you want to keep paying him, overpaying him until he starts producing? So I don't know that agents will allow multi-year deals for most players, especially unproven guys.
Yeah, and that's that, and the agent works for the player. So if the player says, I want this, the agent can say, I don't think you should do that. And if the player wants it, the player can still do it. So that's, certainly part of the conversation. But yeah, I think one of the single biggest things that they could do is require some kind of additional certification for the agents representing these players. I think that would be one of the single biggest things that might slow the, the craziness down a little bit. I don't know how feasible that is, but that would certainly be something I would be exploring that would not at all infringe on the players' rights, but would, potentially help wrangle in probably some of the, worst of the bad actors out in that space. I think then the question becomes, what lessons are we learning? Because from the school's perspectives, Duke is not, my understanding is that Duke's contract with Darian Mensah was not some ACC conference approved boilerplate, everyone's using the same basic language kind of thing. Whereas the contract for DeMond Williams was for Washington. I wonder if some of that language can be a little more standardized and become a little bit more legally defensible and just sort of a little more buttoned up. That may help a little bit. And then the other thing is, what kind of cautionary tales come out of this portal cycle? Because you're going to have, I think there are a lot of guys, everyone goes into the portal thinking, I'm going to land in a better situation. I'm going to make more money. Everything's going to be wonderful. And that's not going to be the case for everyone. Some people will, but a lot of people won't. A lot of people will have lateral moves or end up in worse spots. And you're going to have people who end up as cautionary tales. How many people are going to learn from those cautionary tales? Well, that's a very difficult question to answer, but you could see people potentially learning from some of those. And, the lesson that the grass is not always greener is certainly one that everyone learns eventually. And you may see people learning that at some point over this next year. And you're going to have people that they can look at and go, well, it didn't work out for him, but not for me. I'm going to, I think that's sort of the natural, you're 18, you're 19 years old and it's all going to work out fine. And I'm going to be rich and I'm going to be an All-American. Everyone, there are 2,000 people who enter college football thinking, I'm going to be a first round draft pick in the NFL. And it's like, well, it turns out there's only about 30 of those every year, give or take. So yeah, it is not a guarantee that actual learning will occur, but I will be ever the optimist and say that's another possible source of things being a little less crazy. All of this stuff it's probably going to look different next year. I feel pretty confident in saying it's going to look different. I don't feel as confident saying it's going to look different, brackets, complimentary, as opposed to it's going to look different, brackets, derogatory. Things can always get worse, Tony. That is another lesson that, you can probably have learned at various points in history.
I think even if the portal is moved outside of the season, it's still going to be wild because it's just constant movement. And you're like, even the stuff that you don't even hear about, it's like the ducks' feet underneath the water. That's what's going on in every single football building. And believe me, there's a lot of paddling going on, trying to keep players from leaving and trying to get stuff negotiated to where everything fits what you want to do. And that's half of it. That's half of the chaos going on. And we only see the top half and the player movement, which is fun for all of us who follow the sport. In a sense, I mean, it's like, oh wow, this, oh that. It's like, yeah, it's news, it's something, it's happenings. So even if it's outside of the season, I still think you're going to see a bunch of movement. And I do wonder how many players that left for a spot that they thought would be more money was maybe more money, but it didn't lead to playing time. And if it doesn't lead to playing time, you're not going to get the same amount of money. So now you're going to be looking for somewhere else to find a spot, probably for less money than you left for. And now you're years away, you're years from when you were an established high school recruit. So I do wonder how many of the lessons will be put out there and how long does it take? I assume things will be maybe like there'll be more restrictions by the time all of these lessons can really be looked at and utilized and understood and studied. And I think every now and again you'll see a Amari Abor tweet about how he never should have left Ohio State, never should have listened to people. We know Sam Dixon, the first time he left said it was bad advice. He was listening to people he shouldn't have. And I just wonder what percentage, is it 50% that is bad advice? That, you know what, sometimes you get bad advice and it turns out okay, but that's just because you make the best of it. I do wonder how much of this is, Tom, give me a percentage. What percentage of the players jumping into portal is due to bad advice? Is it at least 50%? Is it like some of it is clearly like you should go into the portal because you're not going to play here. And if the only answer is portal, fine, go. But the bad advice out there is wild.
Yeah, I think that you could probably say 50% or more are at least not materially improving their situation by going in the portal. You may end up, as you said, going somewhere where you're making the best of it. You may go somewhere where, well, I'm making more money, but I have less of a path to the playing field, or vice versa. So, and then you also have guys who, Darian Mensah is someone who right now, he's sort of in limbo right now where he's in the portal, but he's not actually allowed to transfer. It's the legal system. Hooray. He's in a spot where he could end up turning into a little bit of a cautionary tale, where he was at Tulane and then he went to Duke, and they supposedly had a multi-year contract at Duke. So they played 1 year at Duke, and then he's going into the portal right at the end, and Duke said, you have a multi-year contract. And so he's going to Miami unless he's not going to Miami. And the piece that could make him a cautionary tale is get ready to get excited. We get to talk about the tax code. If the way the thing is written right now, you get taxed not only on your income, but also if someone is paying a buyout on your behalf, that, if Miami's buying him out of his contract at Duke. So we'll use nice round numbers. $4 million a year at Duke is what he's making. I don't know that that's the fact, but we're going to say $4 million a year at Duke. So he got $4 million this year. He's got a contract for $4 million next year. Miami's going to give him $6 million. So great. So then he's going to make $6 million. But the $4 million that he signed the contract at Duke, that's still taxable income for him. And Miami's going to pay that off. So then he has $10 million of taxable income and he's only making $6 million. So how much are you really netting out at that point? Now, that is a different tax bracket that I'm in, so I'm not going to make a guess as to what it is, but you're not netting out $6 million in that scenario. So, you could end up with some cautionary tales on that side. And though, and he's someone who would be viewed as a big winner in the transfer portal, where he's not someone who, went into the portal and ended up at a much lower level school than he expected or making a lot less money than he expected. That's what on the surface would look like a great outcome in the portal. And really secretly, it might not be. The other thing that might make next year a little less hectic is you wonder if the schools have adjusted their strategies a little bit. And you look at Ohio State, for example, and Ohio State had a number of first-year players this year or second-year players who they brought in who are pretty highly touted, who didn't necessarily see the field a ton early, but were sort of at the point where they were sort of expecting to see the field more. And those guys were looking for big raises. And the play on the field hadn't really shown up yet to match that level. So now you're maybe adjusting your recruiting a little bit and you're taking perhaps a little bit of a different approach. And you've seen Ohio State really prioritize the veterans. So does that change, bringing in outside veterans? Because virtually everyone they brought in from outside was a third year, fourth year, fifth year player. So how does that impact stuff moving forward? Does that maybe make it you can avoid some of the stuff that freaked everyone out, the guys who were the sort of non-traditional transfers? Do you maybe avoid some of those by changing your approach in recruiting and development and all that kind of stuff? And does that maybe mitigate some of the craziness next year? And again, I can sort of throw that out there and shrug my shoulders and say, I guess we'll see. But Tony, I guess we'll see.
Well, as teams decide, the portal is the best way to go, that just means there's going to be more teams looking for players, more players jumping in, conceivably. Sure, maybe Ohio State won't be as surprised by the losses, but teams like Ohio State that have maybe been, let's just 6 to 10 players is all we really need to bring in. Now you're talking 15 to 20, and they're not going to be the only one. So I think there's going to be maybe more players. It may not be as chaotic, but it's just, again, I wonder how long this will last, this portion of this kind of this way of developing teams and programs. Everybody wants to get it fixed, but until they do, I think this is what we're going to be looking at for a while. And it won did it win a national championship for Indiana? Like, I don't think they did anything differently than other programs. It's just, it all starts with the James Madison thing. I don't think they went into the portal per se. They just brought some players over. I think that's different than kind of what has to happen now. Maybe Michigan can do it with all of the Utah players coming over. Maybe that's something, but I think the next national champion is going to be, heavily influenced by the portal and not just supplemented by it.
Yeah, I would guess that that's true because it feels like everyone is sort of inching closer towards heavily heavily influenced by the portal. That feels like that's going to kind of be the new normal in college football. And, this is one of these things where I can't tell you that this is going to be more or less crazy. I think it's going to be different. I think next year is going to look different. And that's the thing I can say with the greatest degree of confidence. Is that more crazy? Is that less crazy? Is that just very similarly crazy, but at a different time of year? It's going to look different. That is probably my most confident answer at this point.
Tom, the eternal optimist, the Pollyanna of the show, the Tommyanna, as we call him, of the show. So there you go. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. If you're listening, a 5-star rating and review is always appreciated as well. And you can continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We still have more questions to get to. We will piece those out over the next few days as we go. So thank you for that question. And if you got any other questions you want to send, you can throw them in the comments. You can hit us up on Twitter, whatever you want. We're here. to do your bidding. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all later.